The Volkswagen Jetta sedan has long been a favorite for consumers looking for a commuter car that merges German engineering with sedate styling and, of course, a more premium feel. However, as an enthusiast, I'm always looking at the Volkswagen Jetta GLI because it essentially marries all the components that we like from the Golf GTI, but in a more sedan sedate flavor. For 2022, Volkswagen has given the GLI some small updates, including some new styling in the front and the rear, an updated interior with more tech, and of course, the big question I want answered, with new competition from Honda and Hyundai, has VW managed to make enough changes to the GLI to keep this model fresh? Stay tuned to find out. Now, because the Jetta GLI is all about the motor, let me first start, of course, with the powertrain. And this is where Volkswagen made some pretty small tweaks to it. However, they sadly did not give it any more power this year. And you guys should be pretty familiar with this engine. This is the company's 2-liter turbocharged direct injection 4-cylinder, part of the TSI engine family. It makes 228 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. This engine is unchanged in terms of the power output, which is sad because the new GTI offers up to 241 horsepower, so I was hoping Volkswagen would add more. However, they did improve the fuel economy this year. You can still take your choice between a 6-speed manual, which my tester has, or a 7-speed dual clutch, an automatic or a limited slip differential. An electronic one does come standard this year because all GLIs only come with the Autobahn trim. Fuel economy has improved for the manual to 26 in the city and 37 in the highway. That's nearly a 4 mpg improvement on the highway versus the previous generation, and this makes it among the most efficient in the sport compact segment, roughly around the same as the new Honda Civic Si. 0 to 60 performance should be in the mid 6-second range, and this car weighs in at around 3,300 pounds, so this is a couple hundred pounds heavier versus the new GTI. All GLIs continue to be front-wheel drive, and of course we'll talk about more about the engine as we go into the driving scene. But closing the hood, let's take a look at the small styling changes that VW has made for 2022. You can see this is still a rather attractive looking sport compact sedan that does marry, of course, some of the new styling elements that Volkswagen included on the regular Jetta. You can see the front fascia has been slightly tweaked. The grille is a little bit larger. You still have that unique honeycomb shape with the red line that goes across the Volkswagen emblem. The new GTI has an LED light strip that goes across that red line, but sadly not on the GLI. You can see the more of that honeycomb on the lower front fascia. And then, of course, this area here used to have fog lights in the previous generation. Instead, VW got rid of the fog lights and gave us a functional air vent there, I guess, for brake cooling. Full LED headlights, at least, are standard. You can see you have the LED daytime running light with the C shape there, and then the turn signal is just an incandescent design. Overall, I think the GLI continues to be a handsome vehicle, although I do think the new Civic Si is also equally attractive, and Honda did a really good job at emulating the GLI, of course, because some people you say that it looks a lot like a Volkswagen Jetta. Now, moving around the side profile, you can see the new GLI, or the refreshed GLI, is about the same size, around 187 inches long, about the same size as the new Civic Si. Its wheelbase is around 105.6 inches long. You can see the wheels have been slightly updated. These are the 18-inch wheels that you get with the Autobahn package. They're wrapped in two 25/45 width tires. The brakes come from the previous generation Golf R, the Mark 7, not the new Mark 8. They have a red painted caliper. They are ventilated rotors. They look pretty nice along with the wheels. You can also get a black wheel if you guys fancy a black wheel on other trims. All Autobahn models come with the turn signals and the mirrors. Then you have this panoramic roof, which is nice. So basically GLIs are very well equipped nowadays. You can't really get them with a lack of features anymore because VW is trying to make this car a little bit more premium. Now, looking at the rear, you can see the taillights haven't really changed. There's still a full LED design with an LED turn signal, which is nice, unlike the front, which gives you incandescence. There's a subtle GLI badge at the back. And then you can see the exhaust system has been slightly tweaked. VW also says they gave it a sportier sound. There's what it looks like over there. It does have larger diameter exhaust tips, and I believe it actually finishes off the rear a lot better. It makes it look like very Audi-like back here. Now, looking at the trunk capacity, you can see opening up the trunk, this vehicle does have a pretty large size trunk at 14 cubic feet. It does have hinges that crush your cargo. The seats fold down in a 60/40 manner, which is nice. And then if you want to lift up the underfloor storage over here, you can see VW does give you a temporary spare tire, so you don't have to deal with a fix-a-flat kit. So while the outside had very minimal changes, VW also did the same thing on the interior, but because this now only comes in the Autobahn trim, let's go ahead and hop in and show you guys what the changes are like. You can see here's the key fob for the vehicle. This is VW's current key fob. It feels a little bit cheap and flimsy to me, but it is a nice size. It comes with their smart key access system, so you can essentially walk up to the vehicle, lock and unlock it without even having to take the keys out of your pocket. Now, looking at the seats, you can see the Autobahn package includes their leatherette seats with some nice red contrasting stitching, and there's also some red inside the insert of the seat, which makes it look a little bit more upscale. This is the only color you can get, so I hope you guys like the Titan black interior with the red accents. You also get 3-person memory seating on the driver's side with a 10-way power adjustment, which is nice. These seats are also heated and ventilated. That is a unique feature in this segment. Most of the competitors don't offer the ventilated seat option. You can see the door panels also have some nice material, soft touch injection molded plastic. This really interesting kind of almost carbon fiber look trim with this piano black with the red accents. It looks nice with the red stitching here. Nice and padded over here. Hard touch plastic over here. Window controls also feel nice. Overall, it gives you a nice first impression along with the new VW steering wheel. Now, getting inside, you can see it has a traditional sedan step-in height, so obviously not as high as, crossovers, but shutting the door, it has a nice solid sounding thunk. Remember, this is built off of the current MQB platform, although it's not technically the most updated one that you get in the GTI. Now, start stop button is over here by the shifter because it's a manual. Make sure it's in neutral, put the clutch in. And you can see all GLIs now come with the digital cockpit display here. It's 10 inches. Connected with this 8-inch infotainment system here. This also includes wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is nice. VW used to be so behind in the tech. This one does have their older system. It's not the newest one that we see in the GTI. You can see the steering wheel has been updated this year with a new Volkswagen logo. The horn sounds actually pretty loud. It almost sounds like get out of my way considering the size of this vehicle. It's got the new touch sensitive buttons over here with the flat bottom wheel. You can see the leather feels really nice. The wheel itself, however, is not heated. That would be nice to have considering it also has heated and ventilated seats. The door panel or the dashboard you can see has a soft touch injection molded plastic with the faux stitching. It's even soft touch over here, which is kind of nice. The upgraded audio is the Beat stereo in this car, which is slightly different versus what you get in the Harman Kardon GTI. It does sound pretty good, a little bit bass heavy for me. Down here you can see it is hard touch plastic, but I also like a lot of the ambient lighting in this vehicle, which you can actually change that based on the drive mode selector, where it actually will change the color of the gauges as well. It all looks fairly nice. Down here it does look a little bit cheaper. I don't like the way the dash looks. The heated and ventilated seats are also nice. They're a traditional hard button here, which is good. The new GTI has gone to a completely electronic style within the touchscreen. Going over here to the car, you can see there's your usual adjustments. There's a sport display here that shows you your turbo boost gauge, your engine oil temperature and coolant temperature, which is all pretty useful information. There is no embedded GPS into this car. Instead, you'll just be using the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto to access the navigation. You can see vehicle is not equipped with navigation to remind you of that. You can get that, I believe, in the GTI. Over here you can see there's a wireless phone charging pad. The manual transmission has pretty nice shifts, although it is a little bit longer than I'd like. I'll talk about that a little bit more in the driving scene. Put the vehicle into reverse. You can see there's the backup camera. With trajectory, it looks like no trajectory. I don't believe if it's turned off, but that's interesting. It must be turned off because I've seen that on other Volkswagen products. The camera is fine. It's nothing super special, of course, but it does get the job done. A lot of empty buttons here, of course, where in other markets, VW would offer things like heated steering wheel and other options. You can see, push this mode selector here. You can see this car does come with the adaptive dampers. There's also a custom mode here where you can literally customize everything here to the front differential, the engine sound, to the climate control, the steering response, stuff like that. It's nice that VW gives you that option. And it's what you expect in a German vehicle. The cup holders are down here. There's a little bit more storage for keys. There's 2 USB-C charging ports there, which is nice. Padded armrest over here. Open this up, you can see another USB port, and that's a relatively deep storage area. I really like this trim here. This is new, of course, for 2022. It really brightens up the cabin, although I do wish VW would offer a slightly different color because I don't particularly like black interiors. The glove compartment, you can see it's massively huge. It's damped but not lined with felt. The seats also hold you in place nicely. The leather also feels good. And like I mentioned earlier, they are comfortable and supportive. Interior does not have full LED lighting. That's something you get in the new GTI. So again, cost cutting a little bit. And then you can see this panoramic sunroof does come standard, although it's not a full pano roof. It's kind of in between a standard sunroof and a pano roof. But overall, the interior has most of the tech that you'd like. Minus, of course, I don't like the touch-sensitive buttons on the steering wheel. The stereo sounds decent. It offers plenty of room, and it also comes standard with VW's driver assistance features like their adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, and automatic emergency braking. Hopping into the back seat, let's quickly talk about this because this vehicle is larger versus the GTI, and it does offer more legroom back here, about 37.5 inches of legroom, which is nice. Sadly, it is a little bit decontented for the American market. As I get back here, the GLI is lacking a couple of features, but at least it offers plenty of space. At 5'7", I can kind of comfortably get back here, shutting the door. You can see there is a hump right here for the center passenger, so that is going to intrude on your legroom. No rear seat air vents back here or power outlets. I believe you can actually get that in the regular Jetta SEL. So that's a little bit interesting that it's not here in the GLI. You only get one map storage pocket here, which is annoying because something like the new ID4 has storage pockets for your cell phone and more storage relative to this vehicle. Door panel materials, you can see they cheaped out in the back here with hard touch plastic. Not even padded right here, or it's not even covered with leatherette over here, but it is slightly padded over here. So again, a lot more cheaper materials versus in the front. Fold this down, you can see there is an armrest with 2 cup holders. So overall, even though it's lacking features and it has some cheaper materials, it does offer still plenty of space, but I believe the new Civic Si actually offers pretty similar amounts of room. So Volkswagen may be all about that electric car life right now with the ID4 and so many other electric vehicles the company is working on. However, they haven't forgot about the traditional purist, enthusiasts who are looking for an affordable sport compact with a manual transmission. And this car is very much proof of that because it has been updated for 2022. It's still available with a 6-speed manual. You can only get the manual, of course, in the North American market. Other markets don't even offer it with the stick. And we have that 2-liter turbo engine with 228 horsepower. Not quite as much as the new Golf GTI, but still plenty powerful for what it is. So let's go ahead and test out the 0 to 60 performance of this car and see what I can get. Keep in mind, this is the manual transmission, which means it won't be quite as fast. Ooh. And my first run, I got 6.77 seconds, which actually is not bad, considering this is the stick. It does feel slightly faster than the new Civic Si that I drove because this has roughly 30 more horsepower than the Si and a bunch more torque, 258 pound-feet. So, for the manual transmission, it's actually not bad. Now, also keep in mind, it's about 31 degrees outside. This isn't the best, environment for a manual transmission front-wheel drive sports sedan. This car does come with all-season tires. This one thankfully doesn't have the summer tires, but it is properly quick. I do like the feel of this car. I also like the sound. I have it in sport mode right now, which it's kind of synthesizing the noise. Let's go ahead and try it one more time, see what I can get here. Wheel hop. Chirps into second, not bad. All right, I got 6.76 seconds there as well, so very consistent actually. Surprised. I mean, I could probably crack a little bit lower into the 6-second range if the tires weren't struggling for grip a little bit more, but I like how I can also hit 60 in second gear. The new Si requires a shift to third to get to 60, which does slow down the performance. It's gonna make it probably around a half a second slower than this car, but I'll retest it once I have one at home for a week to drive. But you gotta love VW's formula here. They haven't really changed it too much. They've tweaked it over the years, but it's still a really great recipe for a fun vehicle. We've got a electronic limited slip differential. We've got their updated exhaust with a sportier tune, although what I'm hearing mostly is just the sound enhancer. It almost sounds like the car has an intake on it, because if I go to comfort, for example, you put it to comfort here, don't hear it anymore. But you do hear a little bit more exhaust noise out of the back. But again, that noise that you're hearing is that all of that induction howl is just the fake engine generator. But the engine on its own, without it, it still sounds relatively okay. I mean, it's refined, it's smooth. This is, again, reminds you that this is a Volkswagen Jetta, and you should be able to daily drive this car. If you guys, plan to do this as your only daily, it's not gonna beat you up with a harsh ride or too much noise. It still chirps into second into comfort. And the sound is fine. I mean, obviously, as an enthusiast, I'm gonna prefer the noises in Sport, where it's like, it sounds like it has an intake, it's really loud, but it actually gets a little drony and boomy out on the highway. So if you're, driving this thing on long distances all the time, you're gonna wanna turn off that sound enhancer because it just gets a little tiresome, for me at least, after a little bit of time. Now, in terms of the handling dynamics, the steering you can see is relatively quick. However, it's not quite as sharp as the new SI. That's where Honda really raised the bar for handling dynamics in the SI. It feels like a miniature Type R with its quick steering and its stiff suspension. This car has the adaptive dampers. It's standard this year because it only comes on the Autobahn. That's the only trim you can get. It just chirps into second all the time. And the shifter in this car is also pretty good. The throws are a little bit longer, however, than the new SI. And even the Elantra N has a slightly better manual transmission. The Elantra N, however, is kind of a tweener. It's in between this car and, for example, like a Volkswagen Golf R for power and for handling poise. But still, you can't argue with the fact that Volkswagen still very much knows how to do a sport compact. The suspension feels nice and tight. The steering is quick, but not quite as quick as the quickest that I've felt in the segment. It's not quite as sharp, but it's still good. The seats also are pretty comfortable. They hold you in place nicely, but they're also not too aggressive to where they'd be uncomfortable to daily drive. The visibility in this car is also good. VW's driver assistance tech comes standard in this car. It even has features like adaptive cruise control with the manual transmission model, so that's pretty nice. I do wish that VW had added like an active rev matching feature like in the new SI, what that offers, although Hyundai doesn't offer that in the Elantra N either. But regardless, the clutch is also relatively easy to use. You can basically learn how to drive stick in this car or daily drive it in traffic, and it should be fine. Just the throws for the manual I wish were a little bit shorter. Because it's so cold right now, I'm noticing this car is lacking a heated steering wheel, which would be nice to have, but it does have heated and ventilated seats. That's something you can't get in most of the competition, especially at this price point. The tech in this car is VW's older tech, but they have mixed it, of course, with the new touch-sensitive buttons on the steering wheel, which I don't particularly love sometimes, but it looks a little bit more modern. I mean, overall, this car still has a lot of appeal to it. I mean, when it first came out, it was one of the strongest values in the segment. However, it is a lot more expensive this year because they got rid of the base trim, but they also threw in a lot more features in it. In terms of fuel economy, I've been averaging about 25 mpg in my week's worth of driving, so pretty good gas mileage as well. I mean, it's a really easy car to live with. I'm just not entirely sure I would choose this over the new GTI. Now, keep in mind the GTI is a lot more sharp. It's a lot more practical because of the trunk space. This technically offers more rear seat legroom. It's a bigger vehicle, but the VW is a lot more expensive if you guys go for an Autobahn to Autobahn trim comparison, where the GTI is about $8,000 more than this car. I probably would, go with the manual if I was gonna get this car. The dual clutch, I drove that at the first drive event out in Tennessee, and it was fine. But I think this car makes more sense with the manual. It's just more fun. It's more engaging. It's the whole reason why you buy something like this. But overall, I'm still pretty pleased with this car. It's just not the only choice in the segment out there, and that's kind of what's cool is the sport compact segment is a really hot segment right now. There's a lot of new entries out there to choose from. So after spending a week with the refreshed 2022 Volkswagen Jetta GLI, I'm pretty happy to report that this car still has all the flavorings to make a successful sport compact recipe in terms of price, in terms of power, in terms of practicality. The 2-liter turbo offers really excellent performance, 0-60 in the 6.5 second range. The manual transmission is also really enthusiast friendly, although not quite as snickety-snick feel as the new Civic Si. And I also like the fact that VW upped the content in this car. This Autobahn package has the leatherette seats, it's got the pano sunroof, it's got the heated and cooled seats, which is a feature you can't get in some of its competitors. And of course, it also has the adaptive suspension, which gives this car a really nice balance. This is one of the most comfortable riding in the segment, although it doesn't handle quite as well as the new Civic Si or the Elantra N. It does, of course, still offer some of the tech features and that German flavor if you guys prefer something a little bit more sedate, although the new Civic Si also kind of looks like that now because its styling is very similar to this Jetta GLI. Really, this car used to be my only choice in the segment because it offers such a strong value, but now because VW has upped the price significantly this year because they got rid of the base version, this car now starts at around $31,000 for the manual. Add $1,200 if you guys go for the dual clutch automatic, which is still an excellent choice. That puts it in the same price as, of course, the brand new Hyundai Elantra N, which also starts at around $32,000, but it offers up to 286 horsepower, so significantly more power than this vehicle. Although I'd argue that it's not quite as comfortable to drive daily, but of course I'll have that vehicle to retest soon enough for a full week, and we'll be able to put it through my full battery of tests to see if it actually is an easy car to live with. The new SI also is a lot cheaper than this. The Honda is around $28,000, so about $4,000 cheaper, but it also has less power and not quite as much tech, but it also is as comfortable to drive, and it actually handles better versus this car and has a better shifter. So the Jetta GLI is still a great option in the segment. It's no longer the only option in this segment because competitors have gotten so great. So really, even though we live in a world of electrification and self-driving, if you guys are an enthusiast looking for an affordable sport compact with a stick shift, there's still plenty of choices out there, and the Jetta GLI continues to be one of the more middling options out there. No longer the best, but still a really good option out there as well. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2022 Volkswagen Jetta GLI. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.